Hi everyone, it's Professor Chew, and yeah, I gave you a very quick notice again about this video if you wanted to watch it. I'm sorry I haven't been able to schedule these at a more regular time, but this is something new I'm doing this year. So one thing I was thinking is that I could possibly set up a regular time that I would do this. I know some of you can't make it. I mean, it's hard enough getting everybody to get to the final and midterm exams at one time, but you know, if this seems like a good time that you have a moment to watch a video or say hi to me or whatever, that's great. But if not, yeah, if you would like me to try to set up a particular time that I could do these videos at, so you could tune in and ask me questions or just catch me live, let me know. But what we are going to look at is, I went over the homework for lessons 11 and 12, and I just wanted to point out a couple of things. A couple people had some errors on. So I wanted to emphasize the word anti-sudorific. The I is a connecting vowel, and the FIC is from the base for the word for to make or to produce. Some other forms that it has are FOC and fact and FOCT actually, and FY, FI, so they all mean make or do. Another word that a couple of you had some errors on was aspiration. So that broke down. The A is actually a prefix. It is not the same prefix that means without. In other words, it's not the same prefix that we saw in a word like asthenia, which means a condition of a lack of strength or weakness. In this case, ad is really a form of the prefix ad from Latin, meaning towards. And what happens is the D drops out. So you certainly don't need to indicate that D, but it is actually there. And was there. And also spare is a combining form or base that has two forms. It can be spare or sparat. So depending on which one you use, the suffix is ation or ion, and they're both correct. For the word bronchial ectasis, this word used the base bronchi, and then this is the diminutive suffix ol, or in sometimes some of you wrote that it had an E, and that would be correct. That's fine. The compound suffix form ectasis can be left as is, or you can break down as ectasis. So my suggestion is some of you are still breaking down the compound suffix forms and you're not always doing it correctly, because when you break these down, you need to break them down into the roots that they have. So my suggestion is that you memorize the compound suffix forms list and just you don't have to break down those forms. It's totally fine to leave them as is. So similarly in otolaryngology, you can just leave the last part of the word logi as is, or you can break it down to the base and suffix. I really have to point out these two words that both use the base stom, which means a opening or a passage, and a suffix y. So whenever you have a word that basically ends in ostomy, it means the creation of a passage, a surgical creation of a passage from, in this case, the duodenum to the jejunum. In this case, from the ilia to the colon. You're going to definitely see a word like this on the final exam. So we'll keep practicing them, but I wanted to warn you that when a word ends with this stom E, so the word for opening and the suffix, it definitely, it's using this, it's not using the compound suffix form toni, which means to cut. And a couple of you have indicated that and got it marked wrong. I wanted to tell you this. If you see an S and if you see S-T-O-M-Y, it's very likely going to be this combination with the base stom and the suffix Y. It's not going to be ostomy. I know that os is a base, which does mean face. However, os, when it means face, is never used in the middle of a word. It only occurs it would occur on its own, or it would occur at the front of a word. So you're not seeing the base os here, and then tom and e. So look out for that. The word lingula, which means literally a little tongue, or in particular something that looks like a little tongue, broke down as ling, well, really with the base lingu, and then ula, which is another diminutive suffix. And so you can either indicate the u in parentheses or just leave it out. And it does need to be broken down like this. So breaking it down like this is not correct with the u here, because la is not a suffix or an ending or anything like that. So it has to be broken down to indicate the diminutive suffix. And then sigmoiditis. A couple people are still breaking down this suffix oid, breaking the o away from the id. That is not correct. You don't have a connecting vowel next to a suffix starting with a vowel. So this is definitely the suffix oid. On the quiz, okay, so this word acapniel, the I is actually a connecting vowel. You need to note that. Alveolingual uses the diminutive suffix ol, again, like bronchial ectasis. Then you have bronchiolus here, because you can either break it down indicating the suffix us, or you can indicate the whole big, long diminutive suffix olus and leave it like that. That's fine. For cryptococcus, you can either, again, do the same thing. You can break it down, or you can leave it as is. The reason you can leave these as is because coccus is actually a Latin word, and it's fine to leave it like that. And you also learn this as a base. For heterohusia, you can either leave the O on the hetero, that is actually a prefix that we learned earlier in the semester, or you can break it down and indicate that this is a base and that that's a connecting vowel. They're both correct. Please note it's G-E-U-S. Quite a few people reversed the vowels and made it U-E on their homework. It is E-U. Hypoponea and hypopepsia both use the prefix hippo, which means under, and this O is part of the prefix. It's not a connecting vowel. Most of you got that correct, but a couple people didn't. Paratracheal, in this case, for this word, the E is actually part of the base trache. This word, cardioesophageal, you could break it down both of these ways, and the E is actually a connecting vowel here, which is very odd. It's really just added so you can pronounce the word better. And I actually did not mark people wrong for putting EAL as a suffix because I felt that was a confusing example. So, but technically the E is a connecting vowel. Siderosome, most people got this right, but please note this E is an ending. It must be broken apart from some, the base that means body. Staphyloma has the suffix that we've seen a lot before, oma, which meant a tumor or a disease. So this is back from, I think it was lesson 2 or 1. And subiliac, I mean, there's a couple ways to break this word down. One thing you want to indicate it that is that it uses the suffix IAC. So you can either do that by just putting IL. You can indicate that there originally was an E for the ilium, or you can, some people added, you can actually add another I here and just assume that the two I's flow together. That would, I think a couple of people actually put that down and I marked it as correct. And the main thing for this word is you want to indicate that it's the IAC. So I'm going to put these answers up onto Sakai probably tomorrow, just in case there's anybody who hasn't quite finished the homework yet. Just want to make sure everyone has a chance to do the homework and the quiz on their own. Just a few more words about the quiz. I know I don't usually go over the medical term section. Just to point a couple things out that I think most of you have caught on to. I mean, you don't always have to look at the entire definition to figure out which word which word matches with which word. I mean, for instance, if you know tetraparesis, well, the tetra actually is from the Greek word for 4. And that's why muscular weakness of all 4 extremities, and the paresis indicates paralysis or weakness, as an example. Enteropeptidase, well, the ASE is always an ending for an enzyme. So, you know, you can read the whole question, or you can just notice that it's D and look at the whole long definition. Scissus, generally that's going to mean something that's split. So the answer for that one's definitely going to be a genital fissure of the chest wall or a split, etc. So generally most of you do pretty well on this section, and that's good because, I mean, the reason we're taking this class is really to help you figure out definitions of medical words so that you don't have to constantly look things up in a dictionary. Just point out this word labiotenaculum, an instrument for holding the lips during an operation. I mean, this word actually has a diminutive suffix culum, so you can, but notice it's not actually included in the definition. The idea, I think, is that it would be a small instrument since what it's doing is holding the lips during an operation. And it has the word lip and the word for hold. Now, the section on the genitive was, we're going to have another section like this on the quiz this week, I want you to know. And there's a couple things to note. Generally, I had the handout on the genitive of Latin for our last, you can find that handout on the resources section. I'll post it again so you can take a look at it again. But generally, when you have these pairs of words, shall we say, they're both Latin words. They tend to use a noun and then it's followed by another noun, which is in the genitive. The genitive is translated with of and of. So for first thing, for these questions on the genitive, the first thing you need to do is you want to make sure you have of in your definition. That's why splenius cervicis, muscle of the neck. Medicinae doctor, sorry, I'm pronouncing it the Latin way, medicinae doctor, a doctor of medicine, though I didn't accept medical doctor because we do translate the phrase that way. Doctor of medicine. The hour of sleep, hora, the hour of sleep, not time to sleep, hour of sleep. Okay, so there's a simple way to get these correct, which is to note that they all have an of in the translation. The one catch is some genitive forms have a longer, have a different ending. Why? Because they're plural. And in particular, this orum ending is a plural one that does occur in a few English medical terms. So it is sepsis of newborns. So I do really recommend that you take a look back at the handout about the genitive case before doing the before taking the next quiz, because I'm going to put another section with that on that. And I am also going to put another section with some of the other Latin terms that we had to learn on a future quiz. And why? Well, I think it's good for you to learn those. And I'll just refer you here again to the genitive handout that I made for you. Let's see if we can find it. Okay. So this was the handout that I made for you about the genitive case in Latin, and also about plurals. And we are going to have a question about the plurals again in a quiz. But let's do one thing at a time. It's probably wise. So again, take a look at this handout about the genitive endings. Namely, when you change the ending, when you see these endings I, e, or is, you have two nouns in Latin and one noun. The second noun has one of these endings. It's very likely going to be genitive, and when it has this orum ending, it's going to be plural. So it's going to be of the newborns, not just of a newborn. But remember the of for the next quiz. And then, sorry, just a lot of little things, but I will try to cram in everything possible to you at once. Also, just regarding the final exam, it looks like most people, there's a handful of you who can't make it on these days that are indicated, namely on, well, the days are actually, they're not listed here, December the, December the 15th and the 17th. That's great. If you can't make December the 15th or 17th, email me. I left you a note on your quiz, please, to let me know when you can come during these days. I can't, I will be able to schedule one more exam, I think, during these days. I just have to find a proctor to do that. I should be able to do that, but I need some advance notice. So, because I unfortunately won't be able to proctor that particular exam. Proctor the exam on the December the 15th. I won't be able to do the one on the 17th on the weekend, but I love meeting everyone who I saw when I proctored the exams for the midterm. So hopefully I'll meet more of you. Again, final note about this week's lesson. If you have the Kindle version of the textbook, as I do, there's a problem with the vocabulary listed for lesson 14. Yes, we're on page 178. Namely, because of the way the formatted things are off. And some of the definitions are attached to the wrong words, which is obviously a serious problem. So make sure you check this over before you do the homework, take the quiz, if you have the Kindle version of the book. And a last final note to this endless list of small things regarding the vocabulary for our lessons this week. So we are looking at we're on the optic system. So there's a bunch of words that mean eye. And okay, looking over this list, well, choroid, notice this is actually an entire base. So the oid is part of the base. You can split it up into chord and oid if you want, but you don't have to. Please note, there are several words that mean eye. Ocul or ops means visions. Opthal means eye. Opt means vision or eye. Latin, these other words are Greek. It's because they begin with an O. Be careful. Be careful. You may think that some of the terms in the lesson for this week have an O. That's a connecting vowel. It may very well be because the word is using one of these words, ocul, ops, optham, opt, etc., as a base. Look out for that. And then the vocabulary in lesson 14 is about the female reproductive system. And lesson 15 is about the male reproductive system. Just wanted to know, some of these words are, how should we say? Notice that, first of all, the CYE, the E is part of the base. This word that means to be born, it can have the form of not, as in your natal day or prenatal care. Here, but sometimes it has a G attached to it, so please notice that. And also, please note that this word also means a uterus, metra. Obviously, it looks like the base or combining for meter, which means to measure, but so metra can also mean the uterus. And then there are some other words, again, for ovary and for egg that begin with an O, so look out for those words. This O is not a connecting vowel. It is sometimes used in a base. So that's several little things for this week. Keep your questions coming. And yes, there's one more homework I have actually posted. Some of you have actually done. Some people have actually done all the homework assignments that I've posted. So there will be one more that I will get up. Keep your questions coming. We have discussion forum posts this week about medical records and privacy and about patients looking at their medical records. I really look forward to reading your responses and I hope you have a really good week. And as always, email me with any questions.